Rademaker's prescription for transformation. Let's tap into your own authentic genius and live the life you desire.
You are now listening to...
Join Dr. Rademaker for an enlightened conversation about our brain intelligence, our body intelligence, and our energy intelligence. And now, here's your host, Dr. Bart Rademaker.
So welcome. I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, prescription for your transformation, real people, real conversations, and real success. And this platform is really designed to give you new ideas, new insights. And as I like to, share with people, it's more like reference points. And these are points of references that can support you and assist you in your own personal growth, your own personal expansion. And not all of these reference points will make any sense to you, but the point of the matter is, and I always come back to this because it's been my own personal experience, is what we don't know that's going to make all the difference in the world. And so by having these really cool insights, and there's thousands of them out there with these incredible people, thought leaders out there, doing all this incredible work, and that will support us in our own journey. And so today, some of the things that I'll be sharing with you is, number one, permission to be human. I love that one. It means so much to me, and it was also part of my own journey, my hero's journey to experience what that really meant. Another part that I'm going to share with you tonight is the undefended self. What does that really mean? And most importantly, and always the platform that I talk about, is we live in an intelligent universe. And what does that actually mean? How the mind works, and also that part the shadow in our lives that kind of shows up on a regular basis to hack into, our desires and make things go nuts. So first of all, permission to be human. What is that? If you're like me, and I think most people would consider that possible, right, is that we're self-critical of ourselves. We there's a phrase that I had once from someone. It was absolutely brilliant, one of my interviewees. And she said to me, just imagine you treated other people like you treat yourself. You'd end up with no friends. I mean, think about that for a moment. Being so self-critical and judgmental of yourself. Oftentimes things are not just good enough. You're not good enough. And you're beating yourself up. What if you treated other people like that? Soon enough, you wouldn't have any family or friends. And so the key idea here is really to give yourself permission to be human. Our humanness is flawed. Well, no, let me rephrase. I don't like that word flawed because people use the word, perfectly imperfect, which absolutely makes no sense. There's stuff in our life, there's these misconceptions about life that just don't resonate. They're not in alignment with the journey that we wish to be on in life. And so these misconceptions are false beliefs of reality that prevent us from going in the direction that we want to go. They're almost like energy drains. They're taking away the energy from us that we could otherwise invest in ourselves and really expand our lives. And so the important part, and this is something I want to emphasize for any of those people out there that are in this personal journey of development, of expansion, which technically all of us are, but some of us are much more aware of it and purposeful about it. I mean, it's inevitable we're going to learn things over time. And so the question is are you going to be learning with intention and purpose? And I was fortunate because I had some tremendous education throughout my life. Growing up in 5 different countries, starting off with that, learning 4 different languages. That's a funny story in of itself. And then going to medical school and residency and fellowships and 17 years of training. And so always been in that path of learning. I love to learn. I'm very, very curious. As human beings, we're innately curious. And we like to create things. We like to change things. And so that hero's journey, as we're looking to improve our lives, as we're looking to overcome the challenges and the conflicts that are within us, on that search of more wholeness, is that we have those struggles, and they can be really painful at times, frightening as well, depending on what life throws at you. And so without making life at the fault of everything, without blaming everyone else about your fate, it's all your decisions that determine where you find yourself right now. Just as you're listening to this, if it's today, September 20th, 2018 at 9 p.m. or a little after 9 p.m. Eastern Time, USA, it's your choice to be here, or someday in the future. And I'm hoping that many people will get to hear this, because the point is that as you overcome, those challenges, you're the hero, but you're only truly that hero if you come out to the world and share your new insights, your knowledge with the rest of the world, so that others can learn. And that's really the purpose of this platform, is to talk to all these different people, all these different thought leaders, regular people, right? Not celebrities, but just regular, awesome people that have their own genius, that in sharing that, and as I like to put it, I want to tap into that collective wisdom so that we can create that space of generative collaboration, where we get to collaborate together to make this world a better place. Rather than finding what's wrong with it, finding what's right with it, and coming up with all sorts of different constructs, working together to make all that happen. And it has to start with us. Because just like Gandhi says, you've got to be the change you want to see in the world. You've got to change first before you can go out there and promote whatever it is that you know is important. And that's one of the challenges that I see in many societies, not just in the United States, but so often people are so critical about what other people are doing and being so judgmental of that they forget to actually look inside, look at themselves in the mirror. When we're so judgmental and critical of others, the first thing that we actually should do is look at ourselves in the mirror and says, where is that within me? Because there is that truism that says, you can't see something in someone else unless you see it in yourself. And so when we're honest with ourselves, as we're looking to be judgmental of someone else, why not check in with yourself? Check in with yourself, and where is that true in you? What is that purpose of that judgment or that criticism? How are you not being responsible and accountable for your fate right now, that you have to blame somebody else because they're doing something wrong? And so giving yourself permission to be human is key. It's simply accepting our humanness, accepting that stuff that's within us just doesn't jive. It's not vibrating the way it should. And again, I don't necessarily like to use the word flaw, because whatever it is that we're doing that's not working, it makes sense. Somewhere, somehow, you arrived at this strategy, or this strategy was given to you, or this thought, this meme, this belief, this pattern of thinking, or pattern of doing. Somehow you acquired that, typically from somebody else. And oftentimes, not with any malintent, but they've given this to you, usually for a positive intention. It just doesn't serve you. If you're a cyclist in Ohio and now you live in Virginia, are you going to find your way with the map of Ohio? No, you're not. And when we realize and appreciate that way too often we're using the wrong map of the world, we've got to discover our own map. And again, realize that when other people are doing things that we just don't like and don't make sense to us, well, they're using a different map. So it really comes down to you giving yourself permission to be human, accepting your humanness, and without apologizing for it. Yeah, if you hurt someone, you got to apologize for your behavior, right? But an important concept in the world of neurolinguistic programming, brilliant way of understanding how the human mind processes information, processes the external world, and how we communicate within ourselves and with others. And this is like one of those reference points, or points of reference, that when you appreciate that can totally change your perspective on things and yourself. So there's this idea that people are not their behavior. Think about that for a moment. People are not their behavior, right? Behavior is we're doing things. So we're not human doings, we're actually human beings. So checking in with ourselves is, what is our beingness? Louise Hayes, says it so well. We have to be first so that we can do and then have. Whereas the standard approach today is, we got to do, have so that we can be. Or it's we have, we do, and then we can be. Something like that. But she flipped it around. Be that person first. Be the person that you want to be. When I coach my clients, I usually start off by asking, what's great about you that's non-achievement related? Something I learned from Steve Linder from Strategic Brain. You want a great coach and great program? Go to him. One of my other favorites is ChadECooper.com. Brilliant coach. He has a great program called The Leadership Lifestyle. If you really want to change your life and get into a program and find some amazing peers on a regular basis, check him out. And of course, you got the other guys like Tony Robbins and things like that. But the point that I'm getting at is being yourself, accepting who you are. And for me, what's important is celebrating my faults and weaknesses. And what does that really mean? It's really allowing yourself to be aware of what those faults and weaknesses are, not making them wrong, and not celebrating in the sense of, look at me, I can do this stuff. I can be bad and wrong and everything else. No, it's that signal that says, hey, great, I got something that I can work on. Because it is all about the work that we do. I think last time I was talking about the problems in the society with depression and anxiety and phobias and all these kinds of things. And oftentimes what happens is that people try to put a clean diaper on a dirty diaper. They're not taking care of the real problem. And they go through processes of psychoanalysis and medications and escape and whatever it is. The truth is, it's really about doing the hard work. It's a cognitive therapy, understanding and appreciating, how is it that you've developed these strategies over time that really mess you up? I've got a whole bunch of them that I've resolved over years. It's my belief that we all desire divine happiness. And then we come up with all sorts of interesting strategies or silly or clever strategies. Oh, you just got to be happy. Just be happy. Well, it's not that easy. You have to resolve whatever makes you unhappy. That's it. And the truth is that at our level of consciousness, as Einstein put it so eloquently, is you can't solve the problems that this level of consciousness created. You've got to evolve into a higher level of consciousness so you can resolve these problems. And so that's what we consistently need to do is expand that level of consciousness, do the learning, do the work, model after other people. Tony Robbins is great about modeling. He says success leaves clues, and he's right. Is looking at what other people are doing successfully and how can you model that for yourself as well. Learning those insights, learning those points of references. So as you celebrate your faults and weaknesses, when does it happen? It's when you're bothered by something. It's that easy. It's when something bothers you, when there's you're irritated, there's a negative emotion, whatever it is. That's your signal. That's just like, hey, you know what? There's something here that you can work on. Because the truth is, I don't think anybody really wants to feel bad, frustrated, sad, depressed, anxious. I know that what happens is that, in certain situations when we are sad, we're depressed, we're anxious, there's a secondary gain in that. And it's not intentional. It's all unconscious. And that secondary gain is that if we get the attention from other people, or if we have significance, we become important because we've got a big problem. My problem is bigger than your problem. And so we get very comfortable in a way in using this pattern to satisfy, some of our needs, like certainty, like variety, like significance, love, connection, any of these things. But what's important to appreciate in all the work that I do, and I think, and putting everything in context, is that every state has a vibration. And it's important because we can understand and appreciate all of our life in terms of energy. So we are emotional beings, if you think about it. Every moment we're experiencing some sort of emotion. Even no emotion is basically an emotion. And so in essence, we're energy addicts. We want these emotions. And some are better than others. And the question is what's really energizing you? Which emotions are actually energizing you, giving you something that really serves you at the highest level? And what does that mean, serving you at the highest level? Well, there is what we call the higher self. And that higher self is that connection with the divine, however you'd want to define that. And for many, it has so many different meanings. But whatever it is for you, that's what it is. It's that connection with where, there's flow, there's creativity, there's expansion. It's you just feel completely connected with everything around you. And so the idea then is, how can we invest our energy purposefully into that space so we become more? I had a great talk today, in fact, with the Legendary Lifestyle Group. And again, check out chadecooper.com. Brilliant coach, brilliant programs. And the truth is that we are so much more than we make ourselves to be. And it's interesting, why is it that we think we're smaller? And there's many, many reasons why that happens. And I'm not going to go into those kinds of things because it's different for everyone. But typically it's because we're scared of not being loved, or we're scared of being rejected. And this is the tragedy that happens through life all the time, is that our immature brains, when we're children, we're faced with the external environment and we just can't handle the information. We can't put it in its proper context. So therefore we make a meaning that's not true. And so in essence, the misconception of what life is really all about, because there's this fear, the fear of survival in a sense, that the life around us is in danger. And so we have to behave in a certain way so that we can either fend off this danger, or we can appease other people, or we can control other people. And so these are what they call masks. How is it that we as human beings protect ourselves from the vulnerability of our child self from pain? And so that's what's called the defended self. So think about this for a moment. We are much more than we make ourselves to be. And humanity consists of different levels of consciousness. And each level of consciousness, hear this out for a second, each level of consciousness represents a conglomerate, it's a multitude, of attitudes, beliefs, feelings, decisions, experiences, memories, all these different things. Humanity consists of different levels of consciousness. And so when you meet people, you can clearly see that there are different levels of consciousness. It's not right or wrong, but as we evolve, as we grow, as we do that hero's journey, right? We're all going through that journey. And again, with that journey, the best thing you can do, and the purpose for this platform, is share your triumphs but more specifically, the understandings and the insights so that other people can gain from this. And so these levels of consciousness, they're in variance with each other. They're in conflict with each other. It's the challenge that the child has with the duality of the world around us. You know, how do we have the opposites, the yin and the yang, if you will? Opposites at the same time. And so our journey is being able to hold this dualism of life. And it's no longer an either or. And this is a big challenge in our world today. You know, look at politics, for example. And I can't tell you how many friendships have been lost because they're in different political parties. You know, and there's so much toxicity in the air of all this anger and all this angst out there. But the problem is that the people that speak the loudest, they're not owning their own stuff. You got to own your own stuff. And being able to be in somebody else's presence and just simply respect their model of the world. Yeah, they're different. That's my story, by the way, living in 5 different countries. You know, going from one country and then another and just seeing that there's polar opposite in the way of thinking and way of living. And no one's right or wrong or better or worse. You know, it's just absolutely mind-boggling when you see people how they can find their own happiness with what they have. And so who are we to judge them for being wrong? You know, I remember once there was this one lady and I was part of this amazing group of peers that would travel all over the world and meet people. And she was perfectly happy with her life. And I was really judgmental. Says, how can you do that? What kind of contribution are you going to give to the world? You're not doing anything. You're just existing in pure bliss and happiness. And I realized, wow, that's awesome. Isn't that where we all want to be? It doesn't matter who you are, what you contribute, as long as it's in alignment with who you are. It's not up to you to judge somebody else. So the ultimate reality of each person's inner being is unified with eternal life and ever-flowing creativity, joy, and self-expression. And this world has that, and it permeates everything. It's possible for us to find that space. You don't have to be religious. You don't have to be spiritual. But the thing is that when you get to that space, you kind of get spiritual anyhow. So again, whatever your references of religion and spirituality, it doesn't matter, right? What happens is that you're connected, you're in flow, everything makes sense, everything feels great. You know, then of course a little bit of tension happens again, and then you get to grow again, because having just absolute bliss all the time probably will get you into that stagnant place, and probably will, you know, result in, you know, some challenges showing up because you're ignoring what's happening around you. But that's what it is, being 80 to 90% in that place of flow. I mean, wow, that's amazing. And that's what we get to observe in people like the Dalai Lama or Te Poroho from the Waitaha, which I have the great fortune of meeting next month once again. You know, and understanding, you know, how they navigate the rhythms of life in such a beautiful, loving, and harmonious way, but with gentleness, and most importantly, with acceptance and love. Where what I learned from the Waitaha was there are no rules. Imagine that, a life without rules. Well, except for one, as Te Poroho would say. He would say, do no harm. And why can't it be as simple as that? No rules in life except do no harm. How would you change your life if you ascribe to that way of thinking? What I'm personally excited about is to hang out with this guy for about a week and appreciate the way that he harmoniously dances with the energies of other people. And without even giving the specific answers people are looking for, opening that space that they can walk into and find what it is that they need. So it's not confrontational. I think that's what happens so often in our life. Our beliefs that were so protective for us are so persuasive that we're looking for the evidence to validate and justify these beliefs. So we're going to deny things that will, contradict it, and we're going to find the things that agree with it because we have that need for certainty. It's one of those 6 behavioral needs that we have. If you want to learn more about that, go to Tony Robbins and his events. Unleash the Power Within. He's coming out in New York in the month of November. What a brilliant opening, which was similar to what it was for me, to your personal expansion. You like him or don't like him, the guy is brilliant because he's able to help people enter that portal of personal transformation and expand their lives in the most beautiful and amazing way. Once again, you got to do the work. It doesn't help when you just look at the script and say, okay, it's not working. And that happens way too often. It happens in coaching, in therapy, whatever. Ultimately, if you want to get out of that space of depression, anxiety, hopelessness, take that one for an example. There was a study out there, and it was very well done ethically, and I forget the author, by the way, but where they looked at the development of what's called learned hopelessness. And so they had an experiment with dogs, and again, done in a very good and healthy way, where they stimulated one dog that caused some discomfort, and the one dog was taught how to get rid of that stimulus, whereas the other dog didn't get that signal or didn't get that trigger to get rid of that pain, the discomfort. And so regardless of what the other dog did, nothing worked. So the other dog quickly learns how to avoid the discomfort, how to avoid the stimulus. It was interesting, truly, to learn how to get the new way of getting rid of the pain. What was interesting, the second dog just did nothing. And I think this idea of learned hopelessness permeates many people's lives. Because we try, we identify with failure, we're not good enough. And I'm also guilty of that in certain ways, that I was not good enough. I feel that I haven't accomplished what I thought I should have accomplished by now. But guess what? When you have big dreams and big ideas, then maybe that's never, ever going to happen. But the point is that I didn't get stuck in this learned hopelessness. I just never gave up. And the fun part is appreciating the journey and the experiences along the way. And that's the message, ultimately, that I get to share with others. It's not having a certain kind of position or status or whatever. The purpose of what I do is helping people appreciate these points of references so that they can apply and implement it in their own life. That's my emotional currency. And if I consistently can do that and then see people succeed because of my efforts, that for me is the win. And it doesn't matter where I end up on. For me, more importantly, is that I get to expand and find that harmonious, beautiful, loving way to interact with others, so that all I am is just a space of giving, or giving that space for others to walk into to expand themselves. So with this defendedness, it's about becoming undefended, being unapologetic for who we are, accepting our humanness, accepting that dark side, and being able to appreciate that dark side and changing whatever it is that you need to change so that it doesn't control your life. And so ultimately, the final place to get into is states of consciousness where every moment is a perfect expression of a totality much larger than we can imagine. And a lot of this work comes from the book by Susan Thessenga, I think it's Susan Thessenga, The Undefended Self. At least that's the correct book. It's the path work from Eva Pierrakis. It's the deliberate examination of our life and experiences and finding out better meanings of the expression of life and humanity that become much more in alignment with ourselves. So for a moment, ask yourself, where am I defended? Where do I show up in conflict with somebody else and stand fast with what it is that I believe, but it just doesn't feel good? I mean, you have that feeling. You know that feeling. So where is that opportunity for growth? What is that signal for you that says, okay, great, I need to change something here? And one of the best places to experience that is in relationships. You know, how is it that we can have conflicts and stress in a relationship and just blatantly just simply blame the other person for everything? It's all your fault. I'm sure that's never happened to any of you. But we're so quick to blame. And part of it is that, you know, unconsciously, that connection with our child self that was hurt. And the immature brain at that time couldn't process the information well. And it's just permeating throughout life. You know, we stack up the evidence that says, yeah, this is the way that you need to feel. This is the way that you need to perceive the world around you, because it's not safe. And so therefore we have to show up this way. So the work that we get to do, the work that I invite you to do, is to start looking at whatever it is that makes you unhappy and see how you can do one of two things. Either increase your choice. And so there's this law of what requisite variety, as they call it. And that is that the system that's most flexible wins. And you notice those people who are happiest. The happiest people have more choices. And, you know, money gives people a lot more choices. It's not a sine qua non of happiness, of course. But, you know, the more money you have, the more choices you have. It can make things easier. And that's for sure. But it's really about, it's not so much about money. It's about choices and flexibility. But the other part is just doing that journey and coming up with hypothetical situations that, you know, potentially occurred in your life that have caused you to believe certain things. Why you're not good enough. You know, it's interesting. And you know, as we explore the expansive world of humanity and how we can, you know, walk into that, you know, the quality of life is also the quality of questions. When we ask better questions, we get better answers. And so oftentimes we get stuck with a question of, why am I so shitty? Or why am I such a failure? Why am I a loser? And what happens is that we will validate that question with an answer that supports, you know, that thought. You know, I will find the reasons why I'm a loser, I'm a failure, or, you know, a bad parent. I mean, if you're a parent, more than likely, most of the time, or not most of the time, more than likely, there are times that you feel that you're a bad parent. And the truth is that we are actually doing the best we can with the resources that we have. And the best thing we can do for ourselves is continually be curious, ask questions, how can I become more? But the reason I bring this up is that there is a gem of insight when we can when you can refine that question is, why am I such a loser, in the form of, where is it possible that I developed that thought in my youth? What is a possible scenario? And what's true about our unconscious mind, it stores all the memories. Our unconscious mind remembers everything. It's just a matter of whether consciously we're aware of it or not. And so it's that unconscious mind that's continually busy in helping us deal and relate to the experience of life on a moment-to-moment basis. And so it's no different than, when you ask yourself this question at night before you go to bed, because you've got this problem and you're just stumped. You can't figure out what the answer is. And you go to sleep with this question. The unconscious mind, works vigorously throughout the night. And you wake up with the answer. It's brilliant. And that's that unconscious mind working for you. There's a great story of Einstein, and this is what I understood of what he did. What helped him get many of his insights is that when he went out sailing, see, he wasn't actively thinking consciously about things. He just allowed his mind to wander into the depths of the unconscious mind, and he came up with all these brilliant ideas. And that's what we can do for ourselves. And so when we ask better questions, and so not, why am I such a loser? Or why am I failing? Or why can't I find the right relationship? Why can't I find the right job for me? Then it's a matter of what's preventing me right now, and what is a potential origin of that thinking pattern? Because here's what's important when it comes to any of the imbalances or disturbances or disharmony that we're experiencing in every moment. They all make sense. Somewhere, somehow, you're just running a program unconsciously most of the time, and it makes sense. It got there somehow. So if you can just elucidate what that is, what that strategy was, resolve the misconception, the belief of what was there, and replace it with something that makes more sense, then bingo, you're done. And then, of course, you go to the next one, and it continues ad infinitum, because that's ultimately what life is. I don't think we ever reach that place where everything is perfectly resolved. But the point is that you can get really close to an amazing life experience as you constantly do the work, cognitive therapy, if you want to call it that, and getting these points of reference, and having the opportunity to understand and appreciate the world in a different way. And it's not just, in fact, let me be more specific, is, what gets us stuck is our expectations of what things need to be. And when these expectations aren't met, as much as we understand why they're not being met, then it messes us up. And so I like the new idea, the new focus of Tony Robbins, when he says, look, just appreciate stuff. You don't have to understand it. Just appreciate it. Respect that it's there. Be curious as to why it's there. Right? And even if you don't know why it's there, just be curious. No judgment. Nothing wrong with you. Nothing wrong with the other person. People do stupid things all the time. Doesn't mean that they're stupid people. Their behavior is stupid. And it's interesting. There's this idea of what's called a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And, this fixed mindset is just, look, this life is exactly like this, and we have to fit in that box. And so the problem is that it's very easy to be unhappy because you're not meeting these specific standards, these specific expectations. And these are simply patterns of thinking that we acquire from somebody else. Whereas a growth mindset says, great, how is it that we can optimize our life? What else can we do to make it better? How can we grow? So all of this that I'm sharing with you really is kind of intelligent when you think about it. And so my platform, Prescription for Your Transformation, is about intelligence and appreciating the world, okay, not understanding it, okay, appreciating the world around us. We can easily accept the fact, if you want to debate it, that's fine. I'm not going to debate it. It's my belief, and I'm sticking with it, is that we live in an intelligent universe. And there's intelligence all around us. And nothing happens by random. It's the law of cause and effect. You are the culmination of everything till this very, very moment. And as I always say, with a bit of tongue in cheek, it's your fault you're listening to me right now. Yeah, it is your fault. And I say that in a most loving and respectful way, because you are the culmination of all your decisions, your thoughts, your experiences, your emotions till this moment. And as life happens, as events happen, as the external world happens around us, it's our choice on what we focus on, the meaning that we give it, and what we're going to do. So we have to take responsibility for where we are. If you don't like where you are right now, right, you can't blame, well, you can, but it's pointless blaming the rest of the world, because you'll never make the progress unless you get lucky somehow. So being accountable, you don't like where you are right now, so make new decisions. If you keep on doing the same thing, and you know what I'm going to say, if you keep on doing the same thing expecting a different result, guess what? It ain't going to happen. It's not entirely true. I mean, when we look at strategies, especially in investing, and it's a great example, is, whatever worked in the past won't necessarily work in the future. And whatever didn't work in the past isn't a guarantee that it's not going to work in the future. But for the most part, if we're using shitty strategies that don't get us to where we want to go, then it's not likely going to happen in the future. So finding new strategies, modeling other people's success, tapping into that intelligence that's out there. And it's your responsibility. Again, as I mentioned earlier, the problems in this world of depression, anxiety, and we have so many reasons why people are that way. Life can be horrible at times. I mean, it can be tragic at times. I get that. And it's the beliefs we have around that define our experience. It's those misconceptions, because they are, through which lens we experience the life. And pain is inevitable. Bad luck is inevitable. It's how you deal with it that really makes the big difference. And seeing people overcome unsurmountable challenges is such a beautiful thing to watch and learn from them how we can become. Because there is what's called the authentic genius within yourself. There's that genius of intelligence. It's authentically yours. And authenticity, and again, this is a word that's being thrown around a lot these days. But what authenticity really is, it's you speaking in alignment with who you are, who you really are, not who you make to believe in anything else. There's this great saying, and I love this one, is that you get rewarded in private before you get rewarded in public. Get rewarded in private before you get rewarded in public. And it's not about that reward in public, but it's you being in alignment with who you are, that then is a wonderful and beautiful connection. It's that state of consciousness that you get to experience with the world around you. And people will gravitate to that. People will want to be around that space because it's a gift that you get to give others. And this experience that I have with Taporo, one of the leaders of the Waitaha North Island of New Zealand, and just in his presence, it's like, whoa, it's that energy. It's that the fact that he's resolved these challenges, these conflicts, these issues, and I don't know of any of them, by the way, but I'm sure everybody has that journey, even the Dalai Lama. And being in that space of energy that's not being drained, but it's a constant investment in the world and existence around. And you get to experience that. That's the energy of life. That's the life force that we connect with. And what if we all could get higher levels of that? And so this is the intelligence that I talk about. It's the brain, the body, and the energy intelligence. And so when we talk about the brain intelligence, quite simply, it's this. It's the reference points that I've been talking about. It's those little insights, little memes, little quotes. Quality of life is the quality of questions. Quality of life is the quality of emotions. Got those from Tony Robbins. And so the work that you get to do and listening to the thought leaders, that hopefully you'll get a lot on this platform, and just seeing different ways, particularly from those people that are struggling the most. Sometimes they're our best teachers. Sometimes we judge people because they seem to be struggling so much. And it's like, whoa, hang on a second. And sometimes they're our best teachers because of the breakthroughs that they get and they can then share with us. That's the hero journey again. We first must understand what it is that we must change before we can change it to make it lasting. So it's the brain intelligence. It's the work. It's the awareness. One of the big things about the brain intelligence is awareness. What are you aware of? Are you truly aware of? There was a study once when I was asking, are you truly aware of what you do? And 97% of the people said, yes, absolutely. When in truth, it was less than 40% of people are really aware of what's going on around them. And that awareness, that sensory acuity is absolutely critical because it allows you to put yourself in context with everything around you. Because if you're not aware of that, how in God's name can you, function effectively in the world around you? Because it's all about relationships. It's all about a relationship with everything around us. It's not just people, but we relate to things. And if we're not allowing ourselves to take in that information, first of all, that can be a challenge. But if we do, and then we have all those other issues that we learned from being, a child, that's the other part that we have to work on. So it starts off with awareness. So the other part that's really important in the intelligence, it's the body intelligence. So let's face it, if you're on drugs, if you're on alcohol, medications, you don't drink well, water, right? You don't eat properly, at least for your body. I'm not going to give any advice here. Your body, your physiology is just simply not going to function. It's interesting. We all know what depressed people look like. I mean, they're hunched over, the head's down, voice is low, breathing is shallow. Easily you can change somebody's state by the way they're standing and change the way they stand and breathe. And another little trick that I learned, through all the years of personal development is just go ahead, smile. Put a big smile on your face. You've got 80 muscles in your face that are all anchored with happiness. Try to be depressed and smile at the same time. I don't think it's possible. So your physiology is key. But you have to go way beyond that. You have to understand that your body is made up of 70 trillion cells. And when they don't get the right nutrients, when they have toxins in there, when they have heavy metals. These create havoc, create imbalances, and therefore cause all sorts of problems, including allergies or other kinds of diseases. Optimizing you, the right nutrition, the right fluid intake, the right sleep, that's a big one. Moving around, movement, that's key. A big one is, meditation. So all this affects your physiology. All of this is going to affect your brain. So the final one is the energy. And as I mentioned earlier, we're energy beings. We're energy addicts. Everything is a vibration. Our whole world is a vibration. How is it that we get to resonate with that? It's no different than singing out of tune to a popular song, or any song for that matter. So what is it that defend itself ultimately is really all about? And, as we wrap it up, we have to appreciate a couple of things. So the unconscious mind, as I alluded to earlier, stores memories, organizes memories, but also represses memories with unresolved negative emotions, and will also present memories for resolution. And the unconscious mind also functions as what we call an integrated unit, and a whole integrated unit. And so what's important is that when we do that cognitive work, as we get in touch with some of those memories that then develop the perceptions and misconceptions of the world around us, that's the space that we can do the work. And it's hard work. And we can't get lost in the denial or escape or delusion. Resolving what makes us unhappy, release the blocks, get the insights and the breakthroughs, and we release the energy that's holding us back, and find tremendous energy. Why do kids have so much energy? Probably because they don't have all these limiting beliefs. And as they grow up in society that's so critical and mean at times, those are energy drains. So energy is the fundamental currency of life today, and performance, and living at the highest level. Thoughts and emotions have energy consequences. So in a way, we can measure our lives not so much about how much energy we have, but how we purposely invest that energy. Where do we lose energy? Where do we gain it? I ask that question many, many times every single day. And it's really because of my mentor, Chad Cooper, chaddcooper.com. Go there, check him out. He asks, what energizes you? What gets you excited? What fills you up? We need that space where we can fill out. So central to all of this are beliefs and our decisions, and understanding what's underneath. How do the beliefs and misconceptions of what we learned as children affect us today? We wear masks. What is that? That's the face that we put out to the world, simply because we're looking to protect ourselves, for fear of being hurt again, for fear of the dangerous world around us. It's the mask of how we best show up, how we should be, so that we can be accepted by the world around us. And so as I wrap it up, understanding the work that you get to do, learning from the masters out there, so many brilliant people, but still stand guard at the door of your brain. Jim Rohn said that. Being careful and mindful what you actually do take in. Because we have to learn to appreciate how those experiences in youth, the memories that we have of those, the perception of reality that was from an immature brain, how they consistently affect our life today. And it's a shock to all of us to realize, wow, there's a lot there that causes us to believe who we are today. And it starts off with your identity as well. So who are you? Who am I? I am Dr. Bart Rademaker, prescription for your transformation. Real people, real conversations, real success, bringing to you new insights and reference points to help you discover what you didn't know that you didn't know that will make a difference in your life. Thank you so much. Good night. God bless. And I'll be back next week, hopefully out there in Canada, Newfoundland, this beautiful countryside, and give you a live experience of Northern Canada. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Dr. Rademaker's Prescription for Transformation. Join Dr. Bart Rademaker live right here on Radio Star Worldwide each week or on demand 24/7.